The finale of House of the Dragon Season 2 has recently aired, and yes, you did hear that right. It was the finale you watched, not episode 8 of a 10-episode season, or a 70-minute trailer for Season 3. What we spent our time watching was the last House of the Dragon focus thing that we'll see for at least 2 years. Underwhelming, right? Don't get me wrong. There were some moments in the finale that were good and enjoyable to watch. However, when looking at this season as a whole, I'm starting to question if we should have seen it coming. Within this video, I'm going to be looking at where I think the show went wrong, how it could have been improved, and determine overall whether or not Season 2 was actually that strong. So let's get into it. Here is why the House of the Dragon Season 2 finale didn't land, or even arrive. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Where was the battle? One thing that the Game of Thrones universe usually gives us, and something that many of us look forward to, is the battles that we see occurring. Granted, within this season, we got to see the Battle of Rook's Rest, which was amazing, and there's a reason why that episode is the highest-rated one that the show has ever produced. However, my biggest fear when that episode aired, which I said in the video at the time, was that I hoped the season didn't peak there. Sadly, it did. Halfway through the season, within Game of Thrones, the likes of the Battle of the Bastards, the Battle Beyond the Wall, Hardhome, and the Battle of King's Landing are moments that really stand out and make the seasons have some kind of identity and something that they're actually building towards. A place where all of the political building and conflict eventually erupt. Within this season of the show, it didn't really have that. Rook's Rest was good, but it wasn't a battle with extremely large consequences for the greater good. It turned the tides and allowed Aegon to take control, and Rhaenyra obviously died as well, but that was pretty much it. This season felt like it was all about the preparations for war and the Battle of the Gullet, which we were teased with right at the end. However, with us not getting it, I just think it was a real shame knowing that we have to wait at least 2 years until it returns to our screens. It would have been good if there was some kind of reward in terms of a visually spectacular battle, something which we know the show can produce. It would have ultimately allowed the season to have gone out in an explosive way. I actually missed the conflict in this season because even though in Season 1 there weren't a ton of battles, there was conflict that would occur, whether that be Daemon against the Crab Feeder, Rhaenyra coming out of the Dragon Pit in the finale, the series being hunted by Vhagar, and Vaemond being killed too. It just felt like what usually makes up the identity of the show was lacking slightly, and it felt prominent most in the finale when what we would usually expect to see just didn't. The lack of true development. Now, I understand that politics have a large role to play in warfare. It's arguably the most important thing because without it, what is one fighting for and how does peace become accomplished? However, this season, when looking back at it, just kind of felt like there wasn't actually that much true development made, especially when you look at the scale of what happened in Season 1 of the show. When looking at Season 2, it really does just feel like armies were strengthened, dragons were acquired, and the naval fleet was being prepared. That, and obviously, Alicent's betrayal as well. There's something about shows this year where it almost feels like they're losing some of their identity as a sacrifice in order to set up the following season. It happened in The Boys Season 4, but they managed to recover it in the final few episodes. It definitely happened in The Bear Season 3 because that was just a shell of what the previous season was. And in this show as well, it's like they just wanted to leave it on a cliffhanger because they almost didn't want to give it away and lose a reason for us to come back, which wouldn't have been the case anyway. So, the politics on both sides did have some kind of development, but in terms of the wider story and accomplishments of characters, I don't think it actually felt like 8 episodes worth of change and growth. The world felt really small. We haven't explored Westeros to the extent that we did in Game of Thrones, and I'm okay with that. But what I'm not really okay with was just how small the world felt in this season of the show. Again, that never really felt like it was the case in Season 1. For example, Dragonstone and King's Landing didn't feel that far away at all. Harrenhal didn't feel that far away either, as Rhaenyra flew there instantly, and it looked like she was there within a matter of minutes. It felt like we were constantly at the shipyard where Cuss was mending the ship and getting prepared for battle, and it was always similar shots inside the castle or inside King's Landing. All of the backdrops just kind of felt the same, and like the world was never truly getting explored or expanding. Was Daemon ready to see a Song of Ice and Fire? This is one of the biggest things in the finale that got me. Daemon was having visions throughout the entirety of the season as he was confused over whether or not he should betray Rhaenyra and look to stake a claim for the Iron Throne himself, as it had always been something that he desired. The meaning of these visions was never explicitly explained, but Alicent seemed to be the person that was almost feeding them to him to make him question if it was the very thing that he actually wanted. Daemon seeing a Song of Ice and Fire, his death, and essentially what occurred in Game of Thrones felt a bit too abrupt for me. I don't know what truly warranted him being ready to see what was happening because literally only moments earlier, he was still on the cusp of betraying Rhaenyra. It almost felt like he could have been shown that towards the start, and we could have cut all of the Daemon vision scenes because, for the most part, Daemon's tempo was getting shorter, and he was seeking the power even more. Conclusion. Season as a whole, yes, it did contain the highest-rated episode House of the Dragon has ever released, but at the same time, its average was significantly lower than that of Season 1. It had episodes in the 6s and 7s, something which Season 1 didn't have any of. I'm hoping that when the show does eventually return, it will look at what made Season 1 so great. The character building, the ever-expanding world, not drastically changing characters that we've come to connect with, and the battles that live long in the memory of us as the viewer as we're immersed into all-out war.